try and look younger and live stronger. So here's 6 science-backed steps to reverse aging. So one of the biggest causes are imbalanced hormones. So when you are estrogen dominant, that's a clear indication that you're really struggling and you're creating a lot of these things that I'll show you on the next slide that's accelerated aging, and it will shock you. But you've got all of these mental issues to contend with, these physical issues to contend with. So it's just not fun. We want to shift that over here so we've got optimal balanced hormones, and that's the point. So one of the biggest causes, and there's 3 causes that I'll reveal here today, and this is causative. So when scientists say a causative role, that means, shit, this is going to accelerate aging. So look on screen here. It's called Advanced Glycation End-products, and we'll talk about what they are and how to stop them. So I'll give you tools here today to fix this straight away. So advanced glycation end-products, they're going to cause Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, heart disease, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, wrinkles, loss of skin elasticity, infertility, and more. They're very deleterious. So as you can see over here, we want to stop that from happening, and we can do this. It's really simple to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it today. So you'll have droopy eyes. So this stuff will be sagging down. You can walk it back. Like I've been doing this for 6 years, and over the last 4 years, I've been really focused on this, and I've walked back a lot of these skin issues, including a few wrinkles. And you've also got the crow's feet, the dark circles around the eyes there, discoloration. You got these jowls, right, that are just starting to, the skin's sagging down, and you feel like shit, and you feel like, oh, geez, I'm just getting older, and you settle with it, and then you waste all this money on lotions and potions that don't truly work. Now, I don't use any lotions and potions, and I'm 53 in 2 months. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. So let's talk about it. Now, one of the biggest causes is what's called the formation inside you of these AGEs. So your body will make them under certain conditions. And there's 2 other causes, and I'll reveal that on the next slide. So basically, this is my good friend, Dr. J, who I've been working with for the last 4+ years. And this is one of the causes right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you start getting, it says in the pink there, once you start getting above 85, not 100, like the normal range says on the blood test, 85, significantly higher mortality rate, cardiovascular disease, for example. Pretty much everything, health goes down once you get above 80, if you're chronically above 85.
Yeah. And one of the main...
That doesn't matter what the age, but that doesn't matter what the age is. I've looked at different age studies. You could be 5 years old. If you're above 85, your blood sugar is too high. If you're 80 years old, your blood sugar is above 85, it's too high. It doesn't matter what your age is.
And I think, yes, one of the main mechanisms of actions is the AGEs. They glycate all the cells, every single cell. Yeah. But,
exactly. That's basically like the oxidized LDL version of sugar.
Right. So the
cholesterol, if cholesterol stays in your body a long time, it becomes oxidized. It's called oxidized LDL, right, on the blood test. If sugar stays in your body a long time, it's called Advanced Glycation End-products, right, AGE. So
the significance of that simply means that when you go to your doctor, he'll say that between 100 and even 110, up to there, that's okay. It's not. Clearly, it's not. We need to get 85 and below. As Dr. J has now shown, and for us Aussies, that's 4.7 and below. And when you get your labs done and you see that it's over that, that's a big problem. So we'll have a look at the 3 drives in a moment, just to really drive home. It's not just about skin aging. It's about everything, brain aging, kidney aging, everything. And insulin resistance, and a lot of people have it, and they've got no clue. I had it, and I had no clue. It's driving low testosterone. So right there, these AGEs are going to be high, aging you faster. So cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, shit like that, diabetes, kidney disease, you're going to look old, and reproductive dysfunction. So let's have a look at the 3 big drivers. So when our blood sugar stays too high too long, scientists call this dysglycemia, and that's easy to fix. And it's in our food supply, and also things like ferritin overload, that can cause these AGEs to form. Now, an easy way to test this is to get your hemoglobin A1C checked. Now, optimal is about 4 to 5 on a hemoglobin A1C. But if you're here, that's going to accelerate aging fast. We don't want that. And it's very easy to fix. Like lots of scientific studies now have shown conclusively, there's ample evidence that AGEs play an important role in skin aging. So who wants to look old fast? We want to age gracefully and look good. We don't need lotions and potions. It's a waste of money. So one thing that we also have to consider is something that's called telomeres, and AGEs accelerate telomere shortening here. So we have to trigger an enzyme here called telomerase to elongate these telomeres. So the longer they are, the slower you age. But for most people, the air pollution, chemicals, hormonal imbalances, exactly what we're speaking to here, chronic inflammation, all of this shit, stress is going to shorten those telomeres, DNA damage. So it's just a complete disaster if you want to stay young, vital, with vigor, vitality, and just age like a legend. So we got to trigger that as well. Now, right here, let's talk about hormonal imbalances. So there's lots of scientific literature that now shows that if your testosterone is suboptimal, then that's a big problem. Now, optimal is about 18, that we measure it in different units here in Australia, and about 500 in how they measure it in America there. So we need to get it above 500 or above 18. Because if you're not above that, and this is where the medical system fails, men, they'll say 250 or 300 is okay, or even 8 here in Australia, you're okay, but you're suffering with all of this dysfunction. So we're talking about decreased energy, vitality, well-being, and motivation. Well, that doesn't sound too helpful to me. Diminished physical and work performance, decreased mood, feeling sad and blue, impaired cognition. So your earning potential comes down, increased sleepiness and fatigue, poor concentration and memory. So you can see what's going on there. Then in the bedroom there, you feel like a mess. You feel ashamed as a man. Now, what might shock and surprise you that testosterone isn't supposed to decline like they tell us it is. Like these AGEs will lower it. So it's in the food supply. If you've got dysglycemia, that will happen. So we have to fix this issue. This is Professor Huberman just speaking to the fact that we're not supposed to decline as our beloved system government says that we're supposed to. Listen to this.
Talked about the fact that if you really look at the data, just for instance on testosterone, there are men in their 90s, and they are not rare, it turns out, that are making as much testosterone and DHT, dihydrotestosterone, as they were in their 20s.
Right. So they're clearly doing something different. Dr. J said exactly the same thing when I mentioned to Dr. J what Huberman said. Listen to this.
As much testosterone and dihydrotestosterone as they did in their 20s.
Oh, yeah. It's true.
Yep.
It's surprising how little it goes down with age.
Yep.
If you optimize your health.
And this is the first step. So there's 6 steps that I'll share with you here, but this is the first step. We've got to fix this AGE dysregulation in blood sugar. So have a look here. Dr. J also did his 5-year PhD on sex hormones and cholesterol. He went back all the way to the 1940s when testosterone was first being measured, and that's when it started to decline. Now, in the 1980s, it really started to take a nosedive. In the 1980s, a man my age, the average is about 550. All right. So we're still relatively lean. So about 500 or even 450 is the cutoff that you'd want it, which is about 18 here in Australia. But check out this. It's about 350, right, for men now. So you can see what's going on there. We have hormonal imbalances. We feel like shit. And we're suffering as men with all of this dysfunction here. So basically, our default state is estrogen dominant because we have imbalanced hormones. And there's a lot of things that cause that. And we'll talk about that as we progress. But the exciting news is, my friends, right here, let me just scribble a bit of this shit out. So what you mightn't know is that when you make testosterone, and also sperm for that matter, you can send out pulses through the gonadotropin-releasing hormone system every 2 hours to trigger FSH for fertility and LH for testosterone production. So think about that. If you've got these advanced glycation end-products, that ain't happening. So we have to solve this problem. And it's pretty simple to solve. So let's start here and I'll explain exactly how we're going to achieve this. So to refresh your mind, these AGEs, there's 3 big causes, but there's lots of inhibitors of AGEs, and I will reveal them here today. But just check this out.
If sugar stays in your body a long time, it's called advanced glycation end-products, right? AGE. Glycation, it's basically glucose, right? It's sugar.
Glucose. Yeah.
And it sticks to your proteins like hemoglobin A1C, and it sticks to all kinds of stuff all over your body. It makes your cells all screwed up, and the proteins sticking out of your cells get all screwed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to measure. So the nice thing about oxidized LDL, it's easy to measure in a blood test. The problem with age, it's hard to measure because it's all stuck to everything inside your body. It's not just sitting around in your blood. Right? Yeah, keep that blood sugar below 85, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So that's what we need to do, because glucose, as they do in cholesterol tests, as you can see right here, they use glucose to induce oxidative stress. So that's when glucose is above that 85, or for us Aussies or people in the UK there,
4.7.
It's 4.7. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we have to really understand, is just to keep that blood sugar below that thick level. And the mainstream doctors say that 100 is okay, but it's really not, is it?
No, it's insane. It's completely insane. What they do in the medical system with sugar is they wait until you get full-blown diabetes before they like to complain about it, because that's when they can start selling drugs. It always goes back to the drug sales and how they're trying to manipulate things for that. But you don't want to wait until you get diabetes to pay attention to your blood sugar. You want to be optimized, right? That's the whole goal.
Yeah, optimized. So your body will make these AGEs. And again, when scientists say causative, that's a big deal. Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, wrinkles, loss of skin elasticity. So we age, we look like shit, infertility, and there's a lot more deleterious effects of these AGEs. And it's really simple to fix. But just to show you here, it can also cause plaque to build up in your arteries there. So when scientists test out how to oxidize LDL, and that's the bad form, right? You've got LDL that's good and you've got LDL that's bad. And the doctors say all LDL is bad. That's not the case. We need cholesterol to make testosterone. But when you've got oxidative stress and inflammation, it oxidizes it. And the way that they test it is glucose-induced oxidative stress. So we need to really take a handle on this. But we've also got high levels of homocysteine, which can also cause these blockages that happen. So this foam builds up in the arteries, but they also cause lesions in the artery wall there. So we have to fix that issue too. Now, another glaring study that really shows this quite splendidly is this one that I found from Dr. James Nicolantonio in his book called The Blood Sugar Fix. So grab that book. It should be linked below here on YouTube, and that's going to show you how to fix dysglycemia. Lots of strategies in there. But this here is a 2-hour postprandial glucose load. Now, what the scientists found, and many other studies have been shown to do the same thing. This one was done by Keefe et al. In 2008. So we've known for quite some time. So if your blood sugar goes below that 87 or 85 there, or 4.7 in Australia, you've got a coronary regression in plaque in the artery. So this stuff starts to get taken out of your arteries. But when you get above that, right, and the doctors say 100 is okay, you got a slight increase. So this stuff's building up. And then when you get really bad with diabetes, you got a lot of plaque in the arteries there. And to further compound that issue, growth hormone. Now, growth hormone is largely inhibited in humans when glucose is too high. So that's why we need to get it 85 or 4.7 there, and also insulin. And a lot of people have insulin resistance, so they're going to inhibit growth hormone release. Now, why would that be possibly bad? We know how important growth hormone is, but one of its things that it does, and I learned this from Matthew Walker, he's sleep scientist, without growth hormone replenishing the lining of the blood vessels right here. So the protective lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, they're shorn and stripped of their integrity, vessels rupture, heart attack and stroke become most common, and they blame cholesterol, they blame red meat, except for the actual things like AGEs that accelerate hormonal imbalances, accelerated aging, and insulin resistance. So this is what insulin resistance does, and I'll talk more about how to correct this in a moment. But here's the problem with the system. If they even check your insulin, which they very rarely do, they'll tell you, this is a huge problem, between 2.6 and 24.9 is okay. You're good. Off you go. You're no problem. However, functional medicine says to be optimal, keyword optimal, between 2 and 5 on fasting insulin there. So when it's not there, we've got heart disease, we've got pro-inflammatory cytokines being released from your fat cells, you got glucose intolerance in the muscles, lipotoxicity, your kidneys not working too well, right there, polycystic ovary syndrome, fatty liver, central nervous, your brain starts tapping out, and lots of cancers there. And here's a functional doctor, Dr. Mark Heyman, just speaking to the deleterious effects of insulin resistance, and lots of people have this. Listen to this.
Sure. We know clearly that pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, many of the common cancers, pancreatic cancer, are caused by something called insulin resistance, which is prediabetes or poor metabolic health. 93.2% of Americans are in poor metabolic health, meaning they have some form of prediabetes or insulin resistance. They have high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, they're overweight, or they've had a heart attack or stroke. And that poor metabolic health is driving all these conditions, whether it's cancer, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, depression, infertility, so many different things, even acne.
And that's because it's producing a lot of these AGEs, number one. And number two, people eating a lot of the foods that contain AGEs. So these AGEs, insulin resistance, are pretty deleterious. So they're only temporary too. So your body can clear them out. But if you've got constant elevations in blood glucose, you've got insulin resistance, that can't happen. So you get hormonal imbalances, severe Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, diabetes will eventually show up, kidney disease, you look old, reproductive issues there. So again, scientists say that this is causative. These AGEs are causative to all of these deleterious effects. And who wants to look old? Why put up with that? And a lot of people are wasting their hard-earned money on lotions and potions to fix that, but it can't possibly do that. Your body is remarkable when you give it the right stuff to correct all these issues. So the three big causes are ferritin overload, AGEs in the food supply, and elevations in blood glucose. So we really have to correct for those issues. And just to show you here, it's basically all fast food and processed foods that contain these AGEs. And again, low testosterone, AGEs. So we must fix this. So think about it like this. If you've got elevations in your blood glucose and you're also eating them, your body's got to do a lot of work to clear out these AGEs, and it can't possibly do it. So what's the end result? Your body is financing wars it can't possibly pay for. So when you fix your dysglycemia, insulin resistance, and you choose the foods that don't have these AGEs in it, you'll start walking back wrinkles. You'll be fixing a lot of deleterious health consequences downstream. So think about it like this. A lifetime load of AGEs will age you faster and cause all of those health consequences. Well, let's talk about the AGE lowering plan. So what we have to take home is that we have to have balanced hormones. That's number one. And there's lots of things driving it. Like if you get too much sun damage, that's also going to shorten your telomeres, nutrition, lack of sleep, they all play into it. Chemicals, air conditioners, pollutants. And, a lot of people say, oh, God, Mark, what have I got to do? Stick with me. I'll show you exactly what to do. Now, here is the research on melatonin, the sleep hormone. So if we have better sleep, we're going to protect ourselves from not only DNA damage, it's also going to reduce the AGE load. And what we also have to do to walk back biological aging is increase gene expression of an enzyme called telomerase there. There's multiple ways that you can do that. And here's a clinical trial that has shown that even if you're 83 to 87, you can have significant increases in telomere length right here. But the control group, they had a significant loss of the telomere length. So if we do things right, we're going to lower the load of the AGEs, which are a big causative factor in all of those deleterious health consequences, accelerated aging, looking old and feeling like shit, really imbalanced hormones there. But it's also going to start to increase the length of our telomeres, which is going to walk back biological aging. Now, here's some ways that we can do it. The first and foremost, what we have to really take home is we have to fix dysglycemia. But the easiest thing we can do now is stop eating the foods that contain this load of AGEs and choose foods that are lower in the glycemic index. And Also, we've got to really control for fructose. Now, fruit is absolutely fine, but if you get too much fructose, the same issue is going to happen. So what we can start to think about here is everything in green that lowers and inhibits AGEs from forming in the first place. So a healthy gut, a couple of supplements there, good vitamin status, and you've also got compounds that are only found in meat, especially red meat, like creatine and carnosine. All right, you're not going to get them from plants, and we're told not to eat a lot of these foods. That's kind of sketchy, isn't it? We're told to eat a lot of plants. Now, the food processing industry, when they process their foods, they form a lot of the AGEs, and they're packed full of chemicals. So as we saw up here, with the chemicals, they're going to cause accelerated shortening of your telomeres. So if you take your longevity and slowing down aging seriously, big food, big fucking problem. And another amino acid that's lacking in a plant-based diet is called taurine. And the reason for that is you can really only find taurine in animal products. It is not in plants. Now, our body can make a little bit of it, but as we age, we don't make nowhere near enough. So we have to start getting it in either from a supplement form or selecting these foods like oysters that are really high in taurine content. So taurine not only inhibits AGE formation, but it's really important for fertility and testosterone production. So one of the amino acids that triggers the whole testosterone cascade and fertility is old taurine here. So down there, LH, testosterone, FSH, fertility. Okay, so we can see that the advice that we've been given for so long isn't optimal. It is so suboptimal. And the consequences is that instead of aging gracefully and slowing down aging, we've got hormonal imbalances. We don't have a lot of energy. We suffer with the symptoms of low testosterone, and our physiology has anxiety, depression, fatigue, and we just look like shit, and we age exponentially faster. So we have to really rethink what we've been told. Now, another important one, so we've talked about dysglycemia, AGEs, and how that plays out. Another big one that's going to cause the formation of AGEs is a blood lab called homocysteine here. So homocysteine is just as bad as AGEs. And we've tested hundreds and hundreds of people, and over 90% have elevations in homocysteine. So homocysteine will cause these blockages to happen, so this plaque will build up, right? But it'll also cause lesions in your arteries, cardiovascular disease, heart attack and stroke, nervous system issues, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, epilepsy. Your eyes and your ears don't work too well. Your reproductive system doesn't work. Your endocrine system doesn't work. Your skeletal system doesn't work. And your kidneys don't work too well. And to compound that, it's also been shown with elevations in homocysteine that you will develop alopecia, a form of male pattern baldness, and it's also going to cause hypertension through many mechanisms of action. So we have to also correct homocysteine. And as I mentioned, hundreds and hundreds of people have been tested, and over 90% have elevations in homocysteine. And we're not done with homocysteine because it causes all our antioxidant systems to come down. And that includes the enzymes that makes the master antioxidant glutathione here. So this is how testosterone is produced in men. So the mechanism by which this mainly occurs is enhanced luteinizing hormone, LH, the precursor, healthy levels of cholesterol to the testes, because cholesterol forms testosterone. We've got to reduce oxidative stress and lipid peroxidization, right? AGEs, oxidative stress, are going to screw that up. And we have to increase the activity of the antioxidant enzymes and normalize blood glucose. So there it is again, and also increase blood flow to the testes. So when you have homocysteine up, all of that's out. When you got AGEs up and blood sugar dysregulation and insulin dysregulation, your hormones are imbalanced, we are suffering as men. And this is everything that shows up. So when you've got AGEs or high homocysteine, you've got low glutathione. And look at all of this: neuro and brain, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Hunting, ALS, migraines, multiple sclerosis, autism, ADHD, ADD, bipolar depression, cardiovascular, atherosclerosis, erectile dysfunction, hypertension, stroke, thyroid and pancreas, diabetes, hypothyroidism, immune, cancer, AIDS, HIV, cancer, breast, lung, cervical, colon, you get the idea. And look at all this other shit, inflammatory skin conditions, accelerated aging, arthritis, chronic fatigue, pulmonary disorders, asthma, allergies. And as I said there, homocysteine, all right, they'll say that 14.5 and below, you're good. Where in actual fact, we need to get it 7 and below. So the medical system doesn't care too much about your health whatsoever. They don't care about your elevations in blood glucose, your elevations in insulin, your elevations in AGEs, your elevations in homocysteine. They don't care. That's the bottom line. And then all of this shows up. So think about it like this. If you've got high homocysteine, you've got a big risk for all of those issues, lesions in the arteries, plaque in the arteries. If you've got a medium risk, it's still there. It's still a risk. So you need to get it about 8 and below. That's where we need to get homocysteine. Now, here's the solution. You can download it. I made a handy PDF so you can download below. It's all free. Now, it's going to show you how to lower the AGE low. That's thing number one. And I'm also going to show you how to do your blood labs, because you saw homocysteine there and how critical it is. So let's just unpack that now so you can do this all by yourself. Now, really important to understand, when I went through and did my certificate in functional nutrition, I spoke to functional doctors, PhDs. I also spoke to clinical nutritionists. And thyroid hormone is the king. And that's because it gives you more energy, makes more testosterone, fat loss, protein synthesis, brain function, liver detox, metabolism, everything. And as I mentioned there, we've got to get it in the butter zone, not too high, not too low. So here's problem number one with the current medical system. If they check it for you, they'll only check 1 or maybe 2 thyroid labs. And there's 11. There are 11 to check, all of these here, and I've got that in my PDF. So they're only checking around about 11 or 22% of your thyroid. So that's problem number one. Now, problem number two is look at the ridiculous range they got. So you're too low and you're too high, and they send you on your way, and you feel like shit. You're anxious and you're revved up and you're tired and you're fatigued and you're like, oh, shit. Oh, I just don't know what to do. You're up, but you're down, you're all over the place. So they're not checking the right labs. They're not checking to see if they're in the right range. And if you are in what they consider the right range, they'll send you on your way. Can you see the problem there? Now, here's another problem with thyroid hormone. Altered thyroid hormone status causes testicular abnormalities. That doesn't sound too helpful. So that's another problem. And the final problem right here is that thyroid hormone, the active form, it's called T3. And it increases Leydig cell. This is testes for testosterone. The transporter for LH, and also mRNA levels of steroidogenic enzymes in the steroid pathway. So let's just quickly have a look at how that boosts testosterone. So remember, every 2 hours, when you don't have elevations in homocysteine, AGEs, insulin, cortisol, glucose, you can make the precursor for testosterone every 2 fucking hours. So LH here, come back here, LH, more transporters. So LH rushes in and says, make testosterone, right? And then you've got more enzymes in the pathway. So you see all these pathways here? Enzymes, 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 enzymes. And you get the idea. It gives you more power. But if you're too high or too low, it's no good. You've got to be in that butter zone. And when you get the AGEs out, you get hormonal balance back, your glucose is good. That's what's going to happen. So download that PDF. It's got all the instructions in there, how to lower the AGE load and how to do the blood labs yourself and how to get them all checked. Now, another critical lab, I'll explain why. Right, we've already talked about this. Elevations in blood glucose form the toxic AGEs, and it's in our food supply, but also iron overload. Ferritin can cause these AGEs to form. Now, when you've got elevations in ferritin, which is a representation of how much iron your body's stored, and we've done hundreds and hundreds of labs, and the majority of the people we test, they're too high. Very rarely will we see ferritin in the butter zone. I'll tell you right now how to correct this issue. But let's first explore why that is bad for AGEs and for testosterone production and for all human health. Listen to this.
Now, when you have so much iron in circulation, the plasma iron binding protein, the transport called transferrin, becomes saturated. And when this happens, iron begins binding to other things such as albumin, citrate, acetate. And this iron is referred to non-transferrin bound iron. And when this happens, cells will take up this non-transferrin bound iron into the liver, for example, the heart, the pituitary glands, the joints, the pancreas, as well as the gonads. And here they undergo biochemical reactions, which creates reactive oxygen species, which in turn causes tissue damage, inflammation, and fibrosis. So for example, in the liver, it can cause cirrhosis. As well, it increases the risk of hepatocellular carcinoma. In the heart, it can cause restrictive or dilated cardiomyopathy as well as arrhythmia. In the joints, it causes arthritis. In the pituitary glands, when you have iron depositing here, it can cause secondary hypothyroidism or secondary hypogonadism. In the pancreas, the deposition of iron can cause diabetes mellitus. In the gonads, it can cause testicular atrophy, amongst many other things.
Testicular atrophy, among many other things. Oxidative stress, fibrosis, tissue damage, all of that. Now, here's another problem with the standard labs. They'll say a lot of times up to 400 is okay, 30 to 400. And here's a typical lab we get back, anywhere from, I see it very often around about 200 plus to like 500 plus actually. And here's one at 353. Now, why is that bad? Well, we need to get ferritin, which is your body's iron stores, between 50 and 100. That's optimal. The last time I got mine checked, mine was 67. Now, if you've got a gene called SOD2, and about 50% of the people we test do have this gene, look at what's going to happen when your ferritin is over that 100 limit. So this is Dr. J speaking to that. Listen to this carefully.
Heart disease. Yeah. So this one gene, there's really the two genes here, but the SOD2 gene is not a risk unless her ferritin is high. But if her ferritin is high, this gene gives her a tenfold higher risk of heart disease, which is super high risk.
Tenfold, yeah.
We want that to be zerofold. So you got to make sure the ferritin is between 50 and 100, not just 50 to 500 or some kind of crazy nonsense.
Yeah.
Has to be optimal, not just normal on this one.
So that's a tenfold increased risk of heart disease. And the system will blame cholesterol, they'll blame red meat. Well, red meat certainly does increase your ferritin stores, but there's a solution for that, right? What do? You donate blood. And it has many health benefits. You're also saving a life. So blood donation removes, it's basically like, Dr. J explained to me, like changing your oil. So it also, it decreases oxidative stress by elevating antioxidant enzymes like superoxide dismutase and glutathione. Now, when it comes to testosterone production, let me remind you, testosterone production in males enhanced. The mechanism by which this mainly occurs is enhanced luteinizing hormone. Remember, 2 hours, we should be making luteinizing hormone to make testosterone. Increase healthy levels of non-oxidized cholesterol to the testes. Reduce oxidative stress and lipid peroxidization in the testes. And that's exactly what these enzymes do. And then, of course, normalize blood glucose and AGE load, increase blood flow, and that'll increase testicular weight and size and recycle testosterone receptors. So it's going to increase your antioxidant enzymes, and it also, blood donations improves endothelial function, which increases blood flow, better nitric and endothelial function, better blood flow, and it also fixes your skin, right? It decreases deposits of iron in your skin, okay? Has a lot of benefits there. So again, these AGEs are deleterious. Now, if this sounds really complicated, it kind of is. And if you want a solution, feel free to book a call with me, because what we can do for you is we look at your exposome, your genome, your microbiome, your food sensitivities, and we give you a clear path back to health where there's no guesswork. We show you exactly what to do, how long it's going to take, and the precise steps you need to take to get back to health. Now, on the next video, what we're going to be talking about is, what we've talked about today in video number 1. This is a bit messy here. Let me get rid of a few of these things here. I've already spoken to other people about this. So cleaning this up a little bit. So I've talked about the framework, which simply is the AGE load, the dysglycemia, homocysteine, and blood labs. That's the framework. So this is the first video I've talked about. On the next video in this series, which will be released in a couple of days, I've already recorded this one. So if you like these videos, please feel free to share and like and tell other men about this and download those labs. And you might want to subscribe if that's what you want to do. And the second video, we'll talk about the Omega, the Hunter, and the functional method. And then video number 3 here, building materials. So you need building materials to trigger collagen synthesis in cellular functions. You've got to have the right building materials in your body, but you've also got to trigger the whole cascade of processes to facilitate that effect. So unfortunately, most people, they accept accelerated aging. You say, oh, it's just a normal part of aging. No, it's not. It is not. The system has you fooled. They are gaslighting you. They've got you fooled. They're selling you lotions and potions that don't really work. They're selling you all these supplements that don't really work. Your body can do the work when it's got all the building materials and you know how to trigger it and you've got all the cofactors. And that's how you'll get back in your prime and age beautifully like fine wine. Now, I believe in my heart you're only as good as your team. And that's why I work with experts like Dr. J. I've done my certificate in functional nutrition. I work with functional doctors, clinical nutritionists, and that's how we can get you back in the game. So if you like these videos, drop a comment below, like and share, subscribe if that's what you want to do. And remember, this is all we got to do to get you back to health. Exposome, genome, microbiome, food sensitivities, clear path, exact steps for you as an individual to get you back to health. So I'll see you on the next video.